We should be live now. Let me check on the web browser because OBS is a little bit different. Okay, we are good to go. How are you guys doing? We're going to be looking at the preview for episode 5, as well as kind of discussing maybe if you guys have questions in the chat. But yeah, also hope you guys liked episode 4's review. It was definitely my favorite episode, as I talked about in the past. I think they did a really good job with a lot of the characters. I will say one of the characters not happy with, I've said this a lot, is Damon. I think they've used him more as a villain character within the show, which I'm definitely fine with. I think they wanted more of a villain character because there's really not like a straight up villain to begin the conflict. It's really as we get more into the conflict, you'll kind of see characters really do some actions to where almost everyone could be considered a villain, right? So, yeah. But let's also talk about some other things. I wanted to say, I'm going to get some natural lighting, hopefully. Or not natural lighting, some lighting to, like, light me up a little bit more. Something I didn't actually have a problem with in the past because I had lights literally directly behind me. But, yeah. Good evening to you, Ashley. How are you? The Young Wolf, we get it. You love Amelia. Okay. I may have a tiny crush, okay? She's literally like a month apart from me, okay? It's destiny. It will happen, okay? One day. Probably not, but it'd be cool. How are you, Matthew? But yeah, as I was kind of talking about, I'm gonna try to get some lighting in here because in the past I had lights like directly behind me, so it kind of lit up the screen. And the problem is I almost always stream or record videos like in the evening or at night, so like opening my window up doesn't do anything because there's barely any light coming through anyway. So I'm gonna try to fix that for you guys, just so things look a little bit better on the webcam and such. Also, every video this week don't have a made bed in the background, except for maybe the last one of the week. Maybe it's not what you like to see, you know. I just didn't think about it, and then I like was editing, and I was like, wow, you hate to see that, but it is what it is, you know. But getting into episode 5, looking at the trailer we've been given, it would appear we are going to see Rhaenyra and Laenor's Velaryon's like wedding. Hopefully we see a lot more of the Velaryons just because they haven't gotten a lot of screen time. Corlys has gotten a decent amount, but we really haven't seen Laenor really much at all. We've seen him a little bit. We've seen Rhaenys a little bit. Every scene she's been in has been pretty impactful, but we just haven't seen a lot of her, which has been probably my biggest complaint of the show is we just haven't seen Rhaenys much. I've lost all interest in her just because she couldn't spell Westeros. Hey, man, things happen, okay? Things happen. But, yeah, so it's one of those things where we're going to see a wedding in the next episode. I think, I'm not sure because this is something that I really didn't understand in episode 3. They really didn't put a big emphasis on Alicent's had her second child now. Maybe they're playing on kind of the themes of the show so far where women do not have as big of an impact in the world, right? So we've seen that Rhaenyra is passed over, right? People already think like Aegon was going to become the new heir. And even without Viserys saying it, maybe they're playing on that fact where like when Aegon's born, we have this big thing, right? And then, you know, she just... We see Alicent's second child, and she's just not there. Like, we see her in one scene. It's not a big announcement, nothing. She's just, yeah, she happened, you know. Gilda says she's going through menopause. Maybe. I can't wait for Mushroom. Agreed. I don't know how much Mushroom we're going to get. I think Mushroom could be someone that we just get a little bit of. Like, we just see maybe a little cameo, but maybe he'll be a more major of a character. I'm not sure. Besides Rhaenys, yeah, I'm interested to see Rhaenys. Matthew, you want to see Rhaenys for a different reason, but I want to see Rhaenys because I think she's a generally interesting character. And also, like, I think just her on-screen presence reminds me a lot of Olenna Tyrell. Like, the way, like, when Olenna Tyrell was in scenes, right? She was the main focus, right? She stole scenes. It's something similar to, like, Tywin, like, when he, like, was in a scene. It's something that Rhaenys kind of gives off, and I hope we see a bit more of her in these episodes. We probably will see more of her as the show goes on, I would hope. But yeah, I kind of understand why she wasn't in it, but at the same time, I think she definitely should have been more involved in the story so far. But yeah, I also haven't liked issues where, like, I just feel like this only is with Damon, though, where they're changing things with Damon's story to make him worse, or not worse as a character, more of a villain, right? Whereas it feels like every situation in the book so far where we've had multiple outcomes of what possibly could have happened, whether that be Mushroom's take or the Maester's take or the Septons, they've always taken the bad route, like the route that makes Damon like the least likable. So I don't know. Let me turn off my ESPN. So I thought that's kind of been a little bit interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about how they've done Damon's character in the stories up to this point? Because like I've said, Damon started out as probably the character I liked the best on portrayal in episode 1, and he's kind of slowly, each episode has kind of fallen down for me, where I've kind of been more interested in characters like Alicent, like Viserys, especially Viserys. I think Viserys is one of the best characters they did in the show. So I would say like Viserys, Otto Hightower, Alicent, Rhaenyra. Those have been kind of the 4 where I've been like, yeah, they did a really good job with them. Corlys as well. I would say Rhaenys, but she's never in any of the scenes. So we have that. Daemon, he has been kind of exiled to go back with his bronze bitch, basically, and to the Eyrie. So we'll see what happens there. I think this could be an episode where they maybe give Daemon a kind of a week off, maybe. He is one of the main characters, right? So maybe that's not true. And they've kind of painted him as the villain, so maybe we'll see a scene here or there, but I definitely don't think he's going to be a major character within this episode. I think he's going to get sidelined for an episode, and then we kind of see him kind of kick back into motion in episode 6. I don't know. What do you guys think prediction-wise for Daemon? Do you guys think he is going to be a big character next episode? Do you think he's going to be more of a minor character? I'm kind of leaning towards minor. But because of how they've painted Daemon, there's a lot of rumors in the future in the story that I don't want to get into because they are probably, big spoilers that people don't want to hear. But there are certain aspects that I always took was like, yeah, that's definitely gossip, was never a thing, didn't happen. When I read Fire and Blood, that now I'm like, okay, the show's kind of going this route of Daemon. Will they go certain routes in the future? I don't love what they're doing with Daemon either. Yeah, agreed, Ashley. If they would have done more of the stepstones, they could have fleshed the craft. Yeah, I agree, Matthew. That was something that I didn't understand, whereas when I was going into the crab feeder, right, I thought they were going to paint him as kind of like the early to mid-season villain, and then we would kind of get into the bigger things that happen in the Dance with Dragons that would then create those other villain characters that the story would need. Same, I love Matt Smith as Daemon in some of the portrayals, but sometimes they just, yeah, agreed. I really love Matt Smith's performance. I just don't think, I don't like the character around. Hi, Bridget, how are you? I saw you in the chat when I was putting the chat overlay, because if you guys don't know, for OBS, I literally, every single stream, I have to re-put in the web browser, so, sometimes I'll see your guys' early comments if you do comment early. The Stepstones are supposed to establish Daemon as the most experienced. Yeah, agreed. And that's what I thought with Corlys as well. If they were going to establish him as a character with Daemon, and they didn't really do that. So I don't know. It kind of takes away from it, because if I was a show watcher, right, I would look at Daemon and be like, he's a very talented sword fighter and he's a dragon rider, but I wouldn't say he was a good commander, guy at war. I wouldn't have any of those things. Corlys Velaryon kind of comes off as a guy that would be good militarily, but we haven't seen that. It's something that if you're a show watcher only, you're inferring. So I think he'll find himself free of his, yeah. I think that would be pretty much, I think we'll see maybe 2 or 3 scenes of Daemon next episode, and that'll probably be the big part of his character in next episode. But yeah, that's kind of the Daemon plot. Viserys. So we see, I don't know, was it in this thumbnail or I do it in another thumbnail? What was the thumbnail for this stream? So yeah, it was for the stream. There's this kind of image, or I guess part of the video in the trailer that we see that kind of shows that Viserys is continuing to kind of rot. He's kind of starting to get his health is starting to get worse. So I'll be interested to see how far they go with that into next episode, but they've really been slowly each episode giving us more and more of that, especially with the really disturbing scene between Alicent and Viserys. Last week, we kind of saw that Viserys is just rotting all over the place now. And something that I think Alt-Shift X mentioned that I thought was a really cool idea was that there was this idea that maybe because, he'd gotten rid of Otto Hightower, his kind of poisonous hand, who's been making a lot of selfish decisions and trying to climb the ladder, maybe if he cuts his own hand, maybe it could stop. But I don't know. It's interesting because it's already kind of spread to the rest of his kind of body. Hi, Jim. How are you? I'm doing a little bit of episode 5 speculation. Where do you guys think the relationship with Criston Cole and Rhaenyra is going to go? So I've seen a lot of different opinions on this. I know me and Glossy always like to say that Rhaenyra, she spurns Criston Cole. What do you guys think happens with their relationship? Because obviously we know it's not going to end well. It's a forbidden love, right, type thing. It is... Criston Cole could die because of what he's done, right? If this gets out to the general public that they were sleeping together... Bad news for Rhaenyra. Like how we saw, it was kind of like a preview, right? Where we see that Daemon, he has this rumor that he sleeps with Rhaenyra, but it's not true. What would happen if it comes out that Criston Cole was sleeping with Rhaenyra, and how all that comes along with that? How will people look at Rhaenyra? This would damage like her ascending the throne, her as a possible marriage candidate, even though we know it's probably going to happen anyway. It's just very interesting to see how that would go. That being said, I would have liked to see more of his backstory. He's a Myrrish prince after all, and what were his in the Triarchs movements, and could have been like an early gotcha. Yeah, agreed. I like the look. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, someone was watching she and Criston. Agreed. Now, who could that have been? Now, could possibly, maybe if Daemon is still in the city, could still have been him. He knew where the passage was. There was someone. It's kind of implied by the way the camera shot was that someone was watching. Maybe that was just to like hide the nudity, basically. But I can't wait for season 2. Agreed. Season 2 is going to be a very good season, like very comparatively to how season 2 was in the show, Game of Thrones. I don't know why I just said the show, but in Game of Thrones, it's going to be very similar. That's why I've always said the early seasons of Game of Thrones and A Dance with Dragons are going to be fairly similar. Like, if you really look at, like, what the plot is building up towards, and for people that know the book, they're very similar in a lot of ways, right? Like, when you really, like, I don't want to get into spoilers about specific things that happen, but if you look at what happens... And at the end of like season 1 of Game of Thrones and what's going to kind of happen towards the end of season 1 of House of the Dragon, you're kind of in a similar story route type thing. Mar, how are you? But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things going on there. I think that hidden door is going to be used later for a certain dark scene against... Yes. Matthew, I think you are possibly onto something there. Could be something we see. It's going to be interesting, though, because in House of the Dragon, right, we see that Criston Cole, right, Bridget's bringing up, so I'm going to answer this question, that Criston Cole sleeps with Rhaenyra. So this never happens in Fire and Blood. This is not really even an option in Fire and Blood. It's either you believe one way or the other, that one of them slept with or tried to sleep with the other, and the other one said no. So... in the show, they go a different route. Do we believe that Criston Cole could be the father to Rhaenyra's first child? Now, it's possible that they're going to go this route, but I think it would really be a weird idea because we know that Criston Cole, one way or another, is probably going to flip to Alicent's side, right? So, how would that work, right? Because Christian Cole would then be basically going against Rhaenyra's, children, or like his own children, basically. That'd be a really interesting idea, right? Like, how would that go down? Yeah, I think so, Bridget, unless they bring So that's the problem for me, is that they haven't really developed Harwin Strong at all. Like, Rhaenyra and Harwin Strong have been, like, in the same, like, they've had one scene together, right? And it was very brief, and that's it. So if they go that route, they kind of need to speed things up, right? They need to introduce him into the story a bit sooner, and they haven't done that yet. I thought Daemon too. Yeah, that's what I thought, because, but this is my thing though, guys. Ending the episode off, right? I was like, I talked about this in my review and even the stream, where I thought this was all a plan by Daemon, right? I thought this was all pretty calculated by Daemon. He brings Rhaenyra into a public place. He starts to kind of make out with her, right? But he doesn't want to take her virginity, right? I think that's not really in Daemon's character, off of Fire and Blood anyway. But he wants to get her in a public place so it's known, and the rumors will start. Okay, Daemon and Rhaenyra go into a brothel together. They start making out. We have multiple accounts of that. It's not far to go from there to be like, oh yeah, they did it, So in this regard, who is going to want to marry Rhaenyra? Just like Viserys says, okay, Rhaenyra is soil goods, right? Her stock as a potential suitor goes way down. Her public image will go way down. Who does that benefit in that situation? Daemon, right? Because Daemon can now go, well, I already slept with her. You might as well marry her to me. Also, it makes sense from when you look at the Targaryens. They marry into the family all the time. Daemon is a dragon rider that's very strong and powerful, right? If you even look at his actual history from the steps and stuff, and he's a very, powerful person when it comes to military strategy and stuff like that. It puts him in a great situation, while also putting Rhaenyra in a worse situation, right? So that is kind of what I thought about that. And if you look at the gold with Mysaria, more or less, it makes sense because Daemon and her have a past relationship, right? That Mysaria would actually be playing Otto Hightower, right? Because Daemon and Otto do not have a good relationship. And Daemon can see how this would create tension, right? Think about it. Otto Hightower is going to go tell Viserys that, yeah, your daughter is, she's not a virgin anymore. She slept with Daemon. That's obviously going to create some tension between Otto Hightower and Viserys. And Daemon knows his brother Viserys, right? He knows how he's going to react in the situation. So the way I came out of the episode, right, and I've talked about this a lot, is very different from what they intended the episode to be. Because inside the episode, they talk about how Daemon was trying to get back at Viserys and trying to actually sleep with Rhaenyra, and he basically couldn't get it up. And I thought that was a much worse characterization of Daemon than what I had concocted and what I used from the show. So that's kind of how I'm running with it. I'm running at it from my own perspective of what happened, basically of what they showed. So, I don't know, like, because everything in that situation favors Daemon. So I think it makes more sense to make Daemon be very calculated and very cunning and make him kind of like a Varys character almost in that situation. Mar, are you trying to say Alicent? Because there's speculation, there's a rumor, which is what I think is funny that they didn't really mention this since they were doing Daemon as kind of a very villain character. There's a rumor when we're introduced into Daemon and Otto Hightower's relationship in the book Fire and Blood that Alicent loses her virginity to Daemon. Like, Daemon takes it, right? And that's one of the reasons that Daemon and Otto Hightower don't like each other, or specifically Otto Hightower doesn't like him. Now, we don't know a ton about that. It's never really brought up again in Fire and Blood, but it's just kind of a thrown out rumor. So I personally didn't believe the rumor. And it was kind of one of those things where I think the maesters writing it down was just something to throw in to be like, oh yeah, Otto Hightower has a reasonable explanation to not like Daemon. But in reality, that's not really a good one. But I think the way the show is going, I think it will be Criston Cole that is the father. I could see that. I could see it, Matthew. So the question is going to be, again, so this is going to be spoilers for beyond episode 5. So for people that do not want that spoiled, I would like mute the stream for like a minute or come back or something like that. But Rhaenyra ends up having 5 children. So how are they going to do that, Matthew? Do you think Criston Cole and Rhaenyra's relationship could be ongoing and maybe they don't have this big split up this early on? And that maybe like during Laenor and Rhaenyra's wedding or relationship, it's actually Criston Cole she's kind of sleeping with, not Harwin. Because the whole problem becomes, okay, so are they going to have just one child with Criston and Rhaenyra, and they're going to kind of go a different route with that? Are they going to introduce Harwin a little bit later, and maybe there's like her children have like 3 different, like, I'm interested to see how they would go through that. Underdeveloping character dynamics is a running theme, it seems. So I agree and disagree, because I think certain characters I would agree. Like, I think Daemon and like how he actually acts towards like his family, like Daemon and Viserys are such a weird pairing, because Daemon, right, when talking to Corlys, is like, you know, nobody talks bad about Viserys besides me, right? Nobody fucks with Viserys. And he seems kind of like he actually cares about his brother. And even when he comes back, he seems very, you know, he seems like he's glad to be back with his brother and stuff. But then we find out at the inside of the episode that he's trying to get back at his brother for stuff. It's like, I don't know. It seems like their relationship at times is not fully developed. What's up, my guys and pals? How are you? Or gals. Sorry, I don't know why I said pals. Hi, Casper. They need to bring the reality into this. Laenor Velaryon, you are not the father. True. That was such a lame interpretation. Who put that on the ballot and voted? Wait, what are you talking about, Ashley? Oh, are you talking about how the inside the episode thing? Is that what you're talking about? I didn't mention it last time, but I got accepted into the Amsterdam Student Choir by auditioning. We love to see that, Casper. Can we get a round of applause for Casper? Also, Casper, you should, if you have a video of it, you should send it to me on Instagram or something. You should, that's really cool. I think there is going to be obvious problem, though, unfortunately to say, with the whole Rhaenyra's children conspiracy, unless they change Rhaenyra's character just because they just... Yeah, it's going to be a little difficult, because if you think about it, right, it's going to be pretty obvious if they're not Laenors. You guys don't know, Laenor is black in the show. So if the characters come out being like, looking like Robert Baratheon, for instance, people are going to know something a little fucky's going on. You know? So there is that problem where we should, especially with how Laenor looks, if they don't come out with like silver hair and a little darker complexion, right? If we look at Rhaenys and Corlys, we literally have the exact, I don't know how do you say it, exact science of what the children should look like. Questions are going to be raised. That's all I'm going to say. Daemon is the best, yeah. I think they're going to change Laenor's character personally to where he's not gay. I could definitely see that. Because the thing is, right, they haven't really mentioned it at all. It's something where it's like Rhaenyra's whole courting thing where she, Casper, do you have Discord? If you have Discord, you can send it to me on there. You can join the Discord. It's in the description. But what was I saying? So basically, Rhaenyra's whole idea where she's supposed to marry someone is quite different in Fire and Blood. It's very different. Rhaenyra has no say in it. She's basically just told to marry this person. If she doesn't, her being the heir is going to be revoked. Right? It's a very kind of dickish thing, the way it happens in the books. And it's one of the weird, like, only times Viserys is, like, set in stone and you must do this, where he's not lenient at all. in Fire and Blood. So it's a very suspicious thing, right? When you look at it, and it's like, the thing is, it's like I think it's like a page long where they're kind of like it's a discussion, and the only person that's really named is Laenar Velaryon. And everybody in the room knows Laenar Velaryon is gay, or he's bisexual. He prefers men. And basically, the Maester's just like, you know what? Laenor can deal with it. He'll figure it out. Right? So, I don't know. It's a really weird idea because it's so much different in the way that it happens in the book than the show, where the show is like, okay, we've had multiple conversations where we're talking about Laenor. Nobody brings up any of these rumors that he's gay or anything. Even Rhaenyra, right? Rhaenyra, when she's told, you have to marry Laenor, she's like, all right, I'll do it. You know, you have to do the Otto Hightower thing. There's no mention of how Rhaenyra knows already that Laenor doesn't like women. That Laenor doesn't like women. So it's a very interesting concept that they've chosen to do in the show, and it kind of furthers my idea that there is no real Grand Maester conspiracy type thing in the show. It's more like one singular Maester working in the interests of the Hightowers, whereas like the book, there's so many events that you can kind of point to and talk about how this kind of seems suspicious, and we're kind of just brushing past it. Like the Maester's perspective is just brushing past it. Was talking about Daemon actually wanting... Yeah. Agreed, Ashley, agreed. I think Otto is killing the king soon. Yeah. From what we've seen in the trailers, it seems like his health is getting worse, so I could see that. I do have Discord, but no recordings yet. Maybe when we have a concert, I can say you should definitely send it around, Casper. Put it in the Discord. You might get away with Jacaerys if he's Christian Coles because Laenor's lighter skin. Maybe. It would still be really awkward to me, though, if that happened. Maybe even though he got stripped of his title, IDK if Otto would do that. I don't know. I think it's weird because it's like in Fire and Blood, there's a whole lot, like there's not as much mention of, like they've added way more in the show that Viserys is like slowly losing his health and he's slowly deteriorating. That really wasn't as big of a thing in Fire and Blood, really. Joffrey Longmouth was in the show though, next to Laenor. Maybe, I mean, like my problem is though, it's just like I feel like they're leaving themselves open to go that route, right? Where it's like they could go that route, they could not. They're kind of leaving it open to interpretation because why hasn't it been mentioned? Like Laenor being gay or being bisexual, like in Fire and Blood, like at the time, it's not a secret. It's kind of like Loras Tyrell, where like a lot of the council and a lot of the people within the Seven Kingdoms know that Loras is gay. So it's one of those weird parallels where it's like maybe they're just not talking about it, and we'll kind of find out as it all happens, right? As it unfolds. Maybe it'll be a situation where like with Renly and Marjorie, where Renly kind of is at this, he's not at the wedding, but he's like in camp with Marjorie and he just can't get it done. Maybe we see that on Rhaenyra's wedding night. Maybe that's what happens, where Laenor just struggles with that whole situation. The actors who were cast for Rhaenyra's kids are full white with straight brown hair, so they could be Kristens. Okay, so that would be interesting because it should be obvious then. It should be obvious to anyone like in the kingdoms that these are not Rhaenyra's. So I'm going to be interested to see how we go about that, I guess. I don't know. It is very, I don't know. It's very interesting. Mar, are you trying to say Cannibal and Balerion? Well, I would straight up say that Balerion was bigger at the time, but as like Cannibal gets bigger, because the weird thing is like in Fire and Blood, we're told that Cannibal is probably actually one of the biggest dragons at this time, right? Like at this time, Cannibal is probably bigger than I think it's been a while since I've done my research on Cannibal, but I'm pretty sure it's mentioned that Cannibal is bigger than like Caraxes and like Cyrax, for instance. So it is interesting on that idea that if someone was to get Cannibal as a dragon, you'd have like a dragon basically to rival Vagar during this time period. But yeah, maybe he is her sworn protector and is with her for a while, though out or throughout the duration of the story. That would be an interesting change. I could see maybe why they do that change, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. It might be an interesting one though. I think Jon Targaryen is the prince that was promised. I like. Here's my thing. I really don't think there is going to be a prince that was promised. Just knowing off of how George likes to write prophecy and stuff like that, where the prophecy is always misinterpreted and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's going to be like either a joint amount of characters that end up forming the prince that was promised, or it's going to not go the way we think it's going to go. They might change the hair color though in the show. Well, I think the big thing is not the hair color, right? I think that the idea here is if you're going off of the show logic, if all these kids turn out like just being straight up white, and then also not having the hair color as well, it should be a dead giveaway. Dead giveaway. What happened to Cannibal's body? I'm not sure what happened to Cannibal's body. Let's do a quick research of Cannibal, the dragon. Because Cannibal is a very fascinating dragon, though it doesn't really get a ton of time, but let's look it up. Let's look it up. Cannibal the dragon. So Cannibal just vanishes is basically what we're told, which is a little suspicious that Cannibal just kind of disappears. It's very interesting the way like it's basically phrased that it's like he just kind of takes off. I'm not gonna say like what event he takes off because it's a big spoiler, but he just leaves, quote unquote. He just leaves. That's pretty much all we know about Cannibal's kind of ending, more or less. If you don't know what Cannibal is, basically, it is a dragon that is like at Dragonstone or around there, and basically eats other dragons or that's AKA cannibal. So it eats like eggs and stuff like that. It's a very wild dragon. Where we've seen a lot of tamed dragons within House of the Dragon so far, we will eventually see Cannibal as well. I see a cool tinfoil theory that Cannibal took up residence on Skagos. That is very possible. I could see that. I could see that. I'm trying to remember which dragon. Because there's another one of the dragons that... Hold on. We're gonna do another Google search because there's another dragon that like there's a theory went off to the Eyrie. Oh, that was kind of a cool one. And I think probably like started one of the tribe, the burned like face tribe or whatever, in the Eyrie. I'm trying to remember what dragon that was. Let me know what if you guys know. Okay, let me get back to chat. Do you think there are dragons in the north? No. I think it is possible there could have been dragon eggs left. That's it. Sheep stealer. Yeah, that's it. That's it. But yeah, so dragons in the north, I don't think so. There's possibility there could be dragons within the like dragon eggs within the north just because of the hot springs and stuff like that. I think there is like a rumor that when Alicent goes up there, you know, she leaves dragon eggs possibly. Like there's a rumor it could have happened, but we'll see. That would be interesting. I think Jon's true name should be Daeron or will be Daeron. That could be possible. I could see that. I think Jon being named Aegon is just dumb. Like, why would Rhaegar name another kid Aegon? He already has a kid named Aegon. I think it would have made sense just based upon the fact that he was kind of creating the 3 heads of the dragon again, that he names, like, Jon Viserys. I could see that as well. I hope we see him fuck up some would-be dragon riders. Yeah. But yeah, Sheepstealer is definitely one. The All Shift X video, I don't remember who I saw that theory from. It might have been In Deep Geek. I think it was In Deep Geek, because I used to listen to a lot of his videos when I would go to sleep. I think it was his, but it definitely could have been Alt Shift. Who do you think will play Cregan Stark in Season 2? I have no idea, Bridget. I have just no idea. What's really cool about this is Skagos means stone in the Old Tongue, so if Cannibal went there, maybe there were eggs laid, and maybe the stone dragon that gets woken will come from Skagos. Very possible. The show might answer a God theory, though. I think if this is the right timeline about there being dragon eggs in the crypts of Winterfell, yeah, I think that would be really interesting if there was. Jon should be named Aemon. That'd be a good shout out to our guy Aemon. I could see that. That'd be a good one. Who is Cole going to be fighting the next show? Will it be Longmouth and Breakbones at the way in Feast of the Tourney? Very possible. I'm not sure, to be honest, yet, but that could be very possible. Actually, let's try to pull up that scene. Let me see if I can get an image. Because we did see like an image of like Kristen Cole fighting at Rhaenyra wedding. Let's see if we can get a good look here. Okay, that had literally nothing to do with what I typed in. I think it's pretty possible it's going to be Breakbones though, but I'm not sure. I would like to see an image. I can't find anything right now, but we'll see. Jon pretending to be Daeron the Young Dragon. That's true. That's true. That would make a lot of sense if he's Daeron though. That would make a lot of sense. Do you think Roose Bolton knows how to change face like a faceless? I kind of like that theory, Mar. I did a video on that theory a while back. It's been a while now. But I think it could be very possible. There's a lot of things about Roose Bolton that are a bit odd. Like, he seems like very cold in every description we're given of him. He seems almost like a vampire type character, where he just kind of continuously lives on but takes new faces. So I definitely think it's very possible, Mar, and I actually really do like that theory. That's one of my top theories on just like fun ones that I'm not sure if they're correct, but I think they're really fun, and I think they'd be really cool if they were true. It would be funny if Jon's real name was Rhaegar. Maybe. God, that'd be a rough one. I thought Jon called himself Aemon the Dragon Knight. Let's look it up. Let's look it up. There's minor details like that just escape my knowledge. Let's look up. Jon Snow Aemon. Let's just look up the Dragon Knight and see if it pops up. Because that does sound right. So it says that Jon Snow was inspired by Aemon the Dragon Knight and Sir Ryman Redwine. So I think you're right on that, Ashley. Yeah, Jon would call out, "I'm Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight." And then, yeah. And then he would also reply with, "I'm Ryman Redwine." So, yeah. But yeah, that is a confirmation. Ashley, you are correct on that. But let's think about other plot lines. So Alicent, I think we see an image in the trailer where Alicent is pregnant again. So she's on her third child now. I don't think we're going to get her fourth child. I know there hasn't been casting for one, I don't think, for her fourth child, which is really unfortunate because her fourth child is a pretty cool character, but I think he is going to be omitted from the show, which I think is a little tough. What do you guys think? Because I know you guys have talked about that before, about how we're not going to see the fourth child between the two. There are so many cool names, right? But I don't know. Like, I think there are a lot of cool names, personally. Also, thank you for the $5 from Planta Generis. I don't know how to say your name. I think Jon is Lightbringer, not the prince that was promised. Rhaegar was Azor Ahai, thrust his sword 3 times to create Lightbringer. Very possible. But yeah, it was Aemon, but I could definitely see why you thought Daeron. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate it. I'm a little disappointed my alert didn't work. I've been trying to get alerts to work on stream for a long time, and they just don't pop up, which really annoys me. But I will hopefully get it fixed one day. But thank you for the super chat. But hold on, let me look at something real quick. I'm trying to look at some of the evidence for why Sheep Stealer was in the Eyrie. Now, Ryman Redwine is one of the Kingsguard, basically. During the time of House of the Dragon, we actually do hear of him. He actually dies, right? Now, what's weird is we don't hear much about Ryman Redwine. He is this great Kingsguard that is always like talked about in the book series. And I think it's one of those things that George retconned, because he is a Kingsguard during the time of good old Jaehaerys. And if you guys know about Jaehaerys, there was peace during his time. There was no rebellion. There was no war. So why is Ryman Redwine so good? And the thing is, in Fire and Blood, we barely know anything about him. We just know he won a tourney here and there. He was basically a tourney knight. He won some, like, it is one of the biggest, I think, plot holes and or dropped plots from George R. R. Martin, because the character Ryman Redwine is supposed to be this big, like, character, right? Jon thinks about him, but he didn't really do much. So, yeah. Thanks for having live stream. Thank you for watching him, supporting him. Thank you for all that. But let's continue on. I think with Alicent, right, I think we'll see a bit more of her and Rhaenyra's relationship to continue to kind of crumble. We see that their relationship already is pretty bad. Like, their friendship is already pretty bad. Like, we've seen that they both lie to each other with relative ease. Rhaenyra kind of lies about, not losing her virginity and all of that stuff. And we've already seen Alicent lie to Rhaenyra. Not even really lie. Not even, like, regard her, telling her that, hey, I'm going to marry your dad, which is so weird. But there's a whole idea there where these two, really, there is some tension there that's not been spoken. Like, they really have not talked about what happened with Viserys and Alicent. So I think it's something that will come back up in the future, but it is an interesting point. So I think we'll see a little bit more of that tension growing with Alicent and Rhaenyra, and see a bit more of kind of the splitting of the two sides in maybe not this episode, but kind of the building towards that into episode 6. So, Roose Bolton, or Ross Bolton, is the son of Night King. Definitely could see that. 134, the Sir Robert Rowan led an army to the Vale to support Sir Joffrey Arryn. That was never last seen flying deeper into the mountains of the moon. Yes. So that's kind of the weird thing, is that we're never really told what happens after that, which is weird. So it's kind of led to, there's this clan or tribe basically that Tyrion meets where they kind of have this fascination with burning themselves more or less. So it's interesting that probably where that end up came from was because of the dragon. Or yeah, I would assume it's from Sheep Stealer. Agreed. Planta. How do you say your name? Planta Gang. I don't know how to say your name. I can't even begin to say your name, but I'm trying. Isn't that just typical teenage girl conversation? Yeah, fair. Fair. You know what, Young Wolf? That's fair. That's a valid point. But I mean, I will say most typical teenage girls, I feel like they change their friends a lot, especially as they mature. Because yeah, guys do too to some degree, but. Someone said that Daemon Targaryen was the Night King. You know, no, maybe. But I will say, guys, I'm on my rewatch with my two friends. If you watch the Rings of Power streams, you know, one of them is in there. Was on the last one. He was in the one in the webcam. We are on season 8. We are going to start episode 1, I'm assuming, next week. Season 7 was a tough to get through. Guys, it is tough. I've only seen season 7 all the way through about 3 times. Once when actually seeing it for the first time, the second time in preparation for season 8, and then this time, God, that season's bad. When you look at what happens in season 8, it is bad. And now I'm watching season 8 really for the first, or not the first time, the second time now. I have not rewatched it since watching it the first time. We definitely know something bad happens between Rhaenyra and Alicent when Alicent tries to kill Rhaenyra with Cast by Dragon, which I wonder why she tries. Yeah, that's an interesting idea, because what could possibly get Alicent so pissed off that she tries to kill Rhaenyra? Right? Like, what triggers that event to happen? Right? But we'll see. I don't know. I don't want to get too much into spoilers on things that could possibly start that, but there definitely is going to be some sort of conflict that leads to that. Night's Kings, yeah. So it's possible. I think it's very possible that that does end up happening, and I think Roose Bolton. I think there's got to be some shit going on there. It's just the way that we're given descriptions of Roose Bolton is nearly the identical to the descriptions we're given of the White Walkers at times. Or the others. It's just, I feel like there's some sort of connection there. Love Rings of Power. Plantagenesis, right? Plantagenesis. I cannot agree. I think it's like, it's okay right now. I'm okay with it right now, but not a fan. I did like the Field of Fire Part 2 and yeah, so Season 7 is such a weird season. Because Season 7 has a lot of things that are cool but don't make sense. The Field of Fire or like episode, right? Or I think it's Spoils of War episode, is really weird because it's like, okay, it's really cool to see the Dothraki and Daenerys come with the dragon. But then she starts specifically burning the crops and stuff that they could literally take from the Lannister army. Instead of burning the Lannister soldiers or whatever to make them surrender, she starts burning supplies she could take. And I'm just like, what the fuck? What? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I want a parody of We Don't Talk About Bruno called We Don't Talk About C. Yeah. Which you think that has consequences to that with her being the princess and supposed. Yeah. Which is a really weird idea, because if you think about this from a Viserys point of view. Your wife takes a knife, almost kills your daughter. How is that gonna work? Right? It's gonna be one of those situations where it's like, just separate them or put them in a room together until they figure out their problems. Like, I think we're past that, Viserys, you know? But we'll see. The There's a theory that Daemon went underground post-dance and became the three-eyed raven before Blood Raven. It's continued upon theory that Nettles is actually Leaf, though. Yeah, that's a wild one. I'm not gonna lie. Cersei and Jaime are Tyrion's parents. It actually makes Young Wolf. I don't think it does. Ross will run away after defeating Winterfell and collecting all White Walkers. Possible. Yeah, I try to ignore the fact that that's part. Yeah, it's like how the wall comes down. It's cool. It's cool. But the whole way of how he got there in the last episode makes no sense. My friends who don't know how the series is gonna end, they were just like, "Why did we go over through the wall to pick up a singular White Walker, or other, whatever you want to call them, and a dangerous trip on foot, no horses, nothing, when Daenerys could just easily just walk over there or with the dragons and just pick one up." And even if they wanted to get a dragon, why couldn't it just been, oh, Daenerys doesn't know the North that well. She stumbles across the entire army while picking up one of the whites or whatever. One of the dragons gets killed. And then you do that. Then you do the whole. It's simple shit like that. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, I don't know. Maybe he will kill Stoneheart? Maybe. I don't think so, but it's making. I don't know. I think Arya is going to kill Stoneheart personally, but I pretend she's burning the gold. Fair. Everyone, or Young Wolf, everyone knows Lewin Martell is Tyrion's father. Yo, you guys get the wildest theories sometimes. I swear. Like, y'all just get. You just. We get to that point every stream where we start out very cordial and very normal, and then we just start talking about theories that I'm just like, wow. That's a crazy one. Why did she burn Sam's brother and father? Well, this is an interesting scene because it makes sense from the point of view of they're not trying to bend the knee. Daenerys wants to prove a point, right? Where it's just like, you know, you either bend the knee or you die type thing, right? So it kind of makes sense for her to burn Randall. Is someone that openly betrayed her, you know, should have been backing her, whatever. But then her burning the child, or not the child, Randall's like son, is just stupid. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, either way, should have been just put in prison like Tyrion suggests, and then we'll see how they're thinking about, you know, I don't know. Any logical questions about season 7, like, or 8, there's just no reason. I'm just joking. But I know, Ashley, I know. My boy Tyreek Lannister, that's his name. It's not Tyrick. It's Tyreek Lannister is a horse. Yes. I think that's a good theory, Tony. I think that's a really good theory. I could definitely see it. Like, my boy Tyreek Lannister, he warged into the horse, right? And Varys has kept this horse in a very specific stable, right? Away from all the other people. And he's waiting for our boy Aegon to take the throne, and then he's going to unwarg Tyreek back into his body that's probably been chopped up. And then Tyreek Lannister comes back, and he's going to be like, shit, Cersei and Lancel, they killed the king. And then, you know, they be having incest. We now have proof. That's what's going to happen. Aragorn is Jon's father, confirmed. Fun fact. I am actually watching The Lord of the Rings right now. I'm watching The Fellowship of the Ring. Favorite movie. No, everyone knows Tyrion is a Targaryen, heiress to the nasty with Tywin's wife. That one's a bit more believable, Matthew, but I still don't like that one either. But the Sam's family were huge Targaryen. So, yes, but the problem is, right, they went against Daenerys' family, or Daenerys as a whole, in this war. So it's one of those ideas where it's like, she should have punished, like, maybe the head of the house, and then kept the others, right? Like, yeah. He was last seen a horse. That's what it says in the novel. That's true. That's true. Will Jon Snow become a weirwood after he dies? I do not think. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the show or the book? Because the show, it's like, I don't know. I just don't care about the show. But the book, I don't think so. I don't think so. I actually am going to be making a video about talking about, like, will Jon be a POV in the next book? Because I got that idea from Preston Jacobs. They were doing a video, like, about, like, the top 10 things that you don't like, basically, about rewatching Game of Thrones, or things that you notice, I guess. And that was something he kind of brought up, like, could Jon Snow possibly not even have a POV in the next book? And it would make a lot of sense, in my opinion. I thought it would have been ironic if Dany spared them from Drogon and sent them to the wall, only for them to get burned alive by Viserys. Yeah, that'd be really funny. They just show up, they're like, hey guys, we're here to, you know, pledge our vows, and they get burned. They were in the show, but they were not. Yeah. So the whole idea here is Randall Tarly kind of gets manipulated by Jaime, where it's just like, okay, but your vows are kind of like, who should you be supporting? The crown or your liege lord? Right? So it's one of those ideas. And then also Daenerys comes over. She has a bad reputation, right? Cersei's spreading a very bad reputation of Daenerys. So I think it is very plausible that someone like the Tarlys would flip. Now, the Tarlys have been, historically, for the Targaryens, but I definitely see why they would flip at this point, right? So I don't think it's D&D. I think D&D, again, we're not very good when it comes to research and all that stuff later on in the seasons, creating their own plot lines. But I think it made sense for Randall to actually flip in that situation. Next book, LOL, you're funny. Hey, we got to have some hope. If you don't have hope, then it's never going to happen. All right, it's never going to happen. Hold on, I'm getting a lot of messages. Okay, never mind. Doesn't matter. Randall supporting the Lannisters after they murder the Tyrells made no sense. I agree and disagree, Ashley, because from a point of view, I can kind of see why Randall maybe would, because Randall's not a political guy. He's a military guy. Why he could be manipulated into, like, because it kind of makes sense on the idea that your vows, right, also go to the crown. So you should be supporting the crown as well over, like, someone like Daenerys. Daenerys is bringing over Dothraki, something that Randall and the Tarlys would not like at all. She's bringing over foreign soldiers, and she has this reputation of being like Cersei, if not worse, right? Now, I'm not talking about from us, our perspective of Daenerys. I'm talking about things that are going to be said, right? The free cities, even the slavers, right? Talking about Daenerys, she doesn't have a good rep. That would spread, right? And Cersei giving her a bad rep. I would say Randall Tarly is not going to like Cersei and the Lannisters, but he's also not going to like Daenerys in this situation. So I kind of see what they were trying to do, but I don't think it came out the best. Will Jon Snow's character change after he survived? Yes. So the big question mark is going to be, how long will he be dead for? Because we see that with Stoneheart, or Catelyn, she is dead for quite a while, and that takes its toll. She's a completely different character well, wouldn't say completely. I think she had some of the tendencies she had with Lady when she was Catelyn that she does with Lady Stoneheart. They're just way more amplified and way more extreme. But I think if Jon Snow is resurrected in a very decent amount of time, like maybe like a day or something like that, he'll be mostly the same, but he'll be a bit different. Like, I could see if Jon goes into Ghost for a while, he comes out a bit more wolfish, like more, and like he is more instinctively like an animal than he is like an actual human, right? I could see him being a bit less patient with people, being a little bit more aggressive. I think he will change, because that's what George has told us, right? Every time that you come back, you change a little. You lose a little bit of yourself. Like, we've gotten that with Beric. We've gotten that with Stoneheart. So I think with the examples we've been given so far, that Jon Snow should change. I could see them in the books supporting young Griff. So the whole thing with the Tarlys is really interesting, because at this point, Randall has Marjorie. So the question is going to become, how do things shape up? How do the Tyrells and Lannisters stay in an alliance? Right? Does that continue to happen? If Tommen was to die, for instance, if Marjorie was to die, I think the Tyrells would straight up just say, okay, we're not tied to the throne anymore. Let's go with somebody else. Could that be Daenerys? Could that be Aegon? I could very much see it. The North has a right not to trust Dany because of the father who kills Lyanna and Ned's. Agreed. Plus, it was never proven that Lannisters killed the Tyrells, and with Dany invaded, it makes them question what. Yeah, agreed. So that was another thing I was going to talk about. That it's not really confirmed that the Lannisters did it, but it is like highly hinted at. It makes the most sense. Will Jon Snow become like Brandon Stark? Audacious? Yes, I think it's very possible. I think that is exactly a good parallel to what Jon could possibly become. Jon Connington will kill Jorah with Widow's Wail and Skagos. That would be an interesting one, Young Wolf. That'd be interesting. And Brandon Stark, the White Wolf. Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels there that could make a lot of sense. There's another theory that we could talk about with Brandon Stark and Ashara being Jon's parents. That could be something I could do a video on possibly, but I've done a lot of like Brandon Stark and Ashara videos like on that time period. Maybe if Tommen dies and Marjorie lives, maybe she could become a marriage candidate for Young Griff. I think it's possible, but I think right now that storyline is just so locked into Arianne and Young Griff, and I think it makes the most logical sense right now, so I think that makes sense to me. I'm going to start a fight. I think Young Griff is actually Aegon. I'll be honest, I think it's like a 50-50. I've done a video talking about both sides of it, and I think it's very likely he could be either. I like the idea that he's a Blackfyre more, though. Right? Like, I think the idea of Young Griff being a Blackfyre adds more to the story. Right? I don't like everybody being a Targaryen, everybody being a Secret Targaryen. I like just a little dash of, like, Blackfyre. We've gotten a lot of foreshadowing about the Blackfyres in the Duncan Egg Tales or novellas. I think it'd be really cool if he was a Blackfyre. And I just think for the story-wise, it would be better, right? Because you can also play on him being a Targaryen with, like, that false, like, persona he's going to put on to being and having the crown. Ashara and Howland, there's so many theories you can do with Ashara. There's so many characters she was involved with that you can do so many videos on her. Which is weird because she's a very minor character. I talk about that all the time. She's a minor character, but do you think Val and Mance are manipulate Jon? I think Mance definitely could be. But Val, I don't know. I think Val sees the benefits of being friends with Jon, right? Because of, being friends with Jon, gaining his trust, she can help get the wildlings south of the wall, right? So, I think Rhaena and Aegon is Brandon Stark's children. How? Give me the theory there. BGW in the teaser, do you think the Lannisters start some shit with the Velaryons with that fist fight? I could definitely see it just by the way of the Lannisters, how they've been shown already. I definitely think it's possible. Butterbumps poison Joffrey. Young Wolf, you got some wild ones, my guy. You got some wild ones. Sometimes you get a little excited. I will say you get a little excited and you start doing some crazy theories. That's all I'll say. Okay. Let me give you, I think, the video ideas I'm going to have for not this week, next week. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about these video ideas. So I already talked about the Jon POV one. I think I'm going to do that next week. The next one I want to talk about is, will Winds of Winter be split up? So right now he's told us, or George has told us, that Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring will be the last two books. Well, there is problems with that because Winds of Winter is going to be so big. Does he end up actually just splitting it up? Right? I would be interested on that. And then also I have just a video talking about the greens and the blacks and kind of who's right and they're both their sides. I wanted to do that next week because I think we're going to see a bit more of the two sides in next week's video. And I want to I want to do a video where I do it at the beginning and at the end, and talking about at the beginning who I thought was more right and at the end who I thought was more right. And if that changes at all from the beginning of the show to the end. George said Brandon never had kids. Well, maybe he did. Maybe he did. George is the same guy that wrote that Ned never thought about Rhaegar, and I think it's highly likely. Like, when I did that poll on who Jon's parents were over Rhaegar and Lyanna and Brandon, or not Brandon, Ashara and Ned, it was like 90% for Rhaegar and Lyanna. So George makes mistakes at times. If they do the Jon Snow show, I can see them bringing in Val for that show. I can't. Like, at this point, like, why? Like, I don't know, dude. The Jon Snow show, to me, I have no interest in. Jon Snow, to me, at the end of the show, isn't a character. If Val is Jon Snow's twin, does Val know that? And also, does she want to take Winterfell from Jon Snow? I've heard the theory that Val is Jon Snow's twin, but at the same time, I'm like, how would that even work? Why would Ned take Val and make her a wild, like, I don't know. I don't think they're twins, and even in that situation, I don't think so. Winds of Winter video. See if you can get us a release date. I will give you my best prediction. I would say my best prediction, like most hopeful prediction, would be like end of November in 2024. That would be my looking at it from a bright point of view. No, that's not his style, Matthews. Are you saying about like how he would split it into like two parts, basically? I thought Mira was Jon's twin. Dude, there's so many people that think they have a twin to Jon Snow. What would a Jon Snow show even be? I think the only way I think it makes any sense, but even then I don't think it makes sense, is they say the White Walkers are not actually dead. We find out more of them because Jon Snow, again, ends the show north of the Wall. So it's either that, it has something to do with the White Walkers, or two, it's about Bran isn't really Bran anymore, and it's kind of ruling the kingdoms kind of how Bloodraven did, and he's someone that needs to be overthrown. Right? So that's kind of your two options, I think, with the show. And either way, I think it's not compelling. I think no one cares. Like, I won't say no one, because some people like the end of the show and all that, but what is its purpose? Like, you know, like House of the Dragon is cool because it's a time period that's not really that explored when it comes to the main show. So it's separated from the main show. Very interesting time period that is really cool to discuss and talk about and even see on screen. There's a lot of amazing events that happen, and it's just very different from Game of Thrones when you look at the time period. A sequel with Kit Harington, so you know it's not that far in the future, right? It's maybe 10 years in the future, right? What is its value, right? Nobody cares about anything past Game of Thrones because nobody cares about Game of Thrones, like, at the end, right? I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. I think we will get Winds of Winter at some point. I just don't think it's like a lot of people like to make videos where it's like we're gonna get Winds of Winter at the end of the year, and I'm just like, no. In season 8, Varys did send that letter telling of Jon's parentage, so I wonder if they would explore that. Well, the thing is, it's already like almost common knowledge that Jon is the legit heir, right? Because Sansa knows, Arya knows, Tyrion. Well, does Tyrion know? Tyrion doesn't know. Daenerys knew at some point. Like, if it was going to get out. It's probably going to get out at some point, right? Bran knows. Maybe Bran says, like, it's just, I don't know. I feel bad for these TV actors that will always be defined by their one breakout. Yeah. I think that's how a lot of actors or actresses will be, especially related to like Game of Thrones when you look at certain actors and actresses in there. Like Richard Madden, right, is a really good actor that I like. He is the actor that played Robb Stark. If you look at some of his roles after that, he was in 1917, and he was a very minimal role. He's like at the very end. He's, you know, not a big role in there. But again, no one's gonna think of him in that. He was in an what is it called? It was the show for, it was the movie for Marvel. It was like Immortals or something. That movie was bad. So it's like he's always going to be recognized for Game of Thrones and not other things, which is, you know. He was also in Medici, which was pretty good as well. But again, won't be recognized for that. I would also highly recommend Medici if any of you have not watched that. It was really good. I think Val is the daughter of Ashara and Ned, and I think Mance is Arthur, and he took Val with him being the behind the wall, and he lied to Ashara, and Ashara believed it and committed suicide. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. In House of Dragon, people are still feeling got fatigue. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, look at how many people still don't like Game of Thrones. Like, I have already compared episode 3 in this show to season 6 in Battle of the Bastards, right? He was very good in the Bodyguard. I will say Jack Lucas. I watched that as well. That was actually really good. I liked that. So yeah, he was very good in that as well. Yeah, he was very good in acting in that show. But again, like whenever you think of him, you're gonna think of Game of Thrones. But like think about the Stepstones. I compare it very much to Battle of the Bastards, where Jon's running through cavalry. He's multiple arrow volleys aren't hitting him. What happens with Daemon? Same thing. So when you have like that already, where I'm scrutinizing it for Game of Thrones, think about a show where Jon Snow's actually in it, and like every time you see Jon Snow on screen, you'll be thinking, "Oh, look, it's the guy who had no character in season 8 that says my queen like 80 billion times and says I don't want it 80 billion times and has no character and survives all this shit that he probably shouldn't have survived." It's like one of those things where it's like you're poking the bear on people hating already. But yeah. I can't take a Jon Snow show seriously just because of as of now. Wait, I can't take a Jon Snow show seriously just because as of now it rhymes. LOL. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I love that show. Which show, Bodyguard or Medici? They're both great though. I love both of them. I kind of forgot about Bodyguard until Jack mentioned it. I'd kind of forgotten about it. All right, we're kind of getting off topic, so I think unless you guys have any other House of the Dragon questions or things you want to speculate on, actually, you know what? Before we end, I want to talk about Otto Hightower. Where do we think Otto Hightower is going to be in this next episode? Do you think he's going to go back to Old Town? Or do you think he's going to stick around in King's Landing, just, you know, fuck around for a little while? What do you guys think? Because we have this idea that he's not going to really be in charge for a little while. But yeah. That is possible, Mar. People's reaction to Jon Snow show, I don't want it. Agreed. To me, plot armor battles only become a problem if there's no character / politics / scheming to fill out the rest of the show. If the action is exciting and story is well written, I can forgive episode 3. My problem is, like, I am cool with having battles and plot armor, right? But it needs to make sense in a way that, like, is understandable, right? You know, like, if we look at some of the early battles of Game of Thrones. So let's take a look at the Battle of the Blackwater. Tyrion, to a degree, has plot armor, right? He's a young, or he's not young, but he's a dwarf. You know, he shouldn't really be that great at fighting. But it's okay because there are stakes to it. The battle is making sense, right? Everything is unfolding in a way that would be a logical battle. Whereas the Stepstones, it's like, okay, we're giving off this idea that they've been fighting for years, and you're telling me the way that they win this battle is that Daemon runs at them while hundreds of arrows are being shot at him. The only one on the battlefield, by the way. And then he's just killing all these dudes, like 1-on-3 basically, which is fine because Daemon's a very good warrior. But we're saying we don't use the dragons where we know these archers have been. We've already gotten a scene. They know where they are. And they don't... The whole battle is just very illogical compared to battles that make sense in the Game of Thrones, like the earlier seasons, whenever we've seen them. Or, for instance, the Whispering Wood. We didn't actually see that battle, but that's a battle that makes sense when you really look at it. Richard Madden was also in the Iton. I had not actually seen that. I blame D&D for screwing Jon's character big time. Yeah, agreed. Corus looks older in the preview. Yeah, he does look a little older in the preview. But we're supposed to be getting, I think, another time skip a little bit, so it does make sense. I think he's heading back to Old Town. That's what I think as well. I agree, Matthew. I think either one of those options makes sense. Will we get Ready the Ruin? Possible. I could see it. Jimmy lost his arm and Cersei lost her beauty, and I think Tyrion will lose his tongue. I think it's possible. We've seen a lot of foreshadowing or suggestive text that one day Tyrion's going to get his tongue cut out. It's very possible. I'm not sure. I don't care for Otto. Hey, Bridget, I don't like Otto either. Okay. He is one of my least favorite characters when it comes to them as a person. But, like, I don't know. It's weird because I like them as a villain type character, but I hate their guts. Like, it's like Joffrey. Like, I love Joffrey as a villain, but I hate their guts. Like, Otto, I do not like just because I'm a Rhaenyra boy. And you can't say that's because of the actress, because I've always been a Rhaenyra boy. Go back to my older videos. My whole Maester conspiracy is on basically how they discount Rhaenyra and how they try to smear her, basically. But yeah, that is where I think I'm going to end stream. Hobbits are remarkably light on their feet. In fact, they can pass unseen by... Agreed. But hey, Rings of Power, there's no hobbits. There's Harfoots. Big difference, Matthew. Big difference. You aren't paying attention. Fake fan. Meanwhile, the Harfoots are a subcategory of hobbits. Fake fan. We're gonna leave it at that. I will be probably streaming for Rings of Power on Friday. It's gonna be an earlier stream because I do have to leave at 5 a.m. the next morning, so we'll see. But, you know. I agree, Mar. I don't want Sansa to become queen at the end. I don't think it really makes sense with how everything is set up right now, but yeah. But that is where I'm going to leave the stream. Thank you guys all for watching. I'm excited for episode 5. I hope you guys are as well. Things are kind of starting to spice up a little. Just a little. And I will see you guys all in